Always great catching up with Juicy J. Julian Erosa is going to be back in action. Big fight here. Hakeem Dawodu, UFC 279, September 10th. Julian, how are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on again, James.
Hey, it's a ritual. Seems like every fight we got to do one of these, which is great. Just first and foremost, man, how excited were you not only to get Hakeem as an opponent because it's a pretty big name, pretty awesome style matchup, but you're going to be fighting on the same card as Hamzat Chimaev and Nate Diaz. You must be pretty stoked about that too.
Yeah, I initially when I fought Steven Peterson, Hakeem was on that card and he fought shoot, I can't remember who he fought. Tall, lanky guy, built like I am. Can't his name's not coming to me, but he fought that same night, and then I had done some interviews and they were asking me about potential opponents after that, and I was like, well, maybe Hakeem, since he fought the same night and he won his fight, I won my fight. I figured they might match us up together, and other opponents had kind of fallen through, and different dates have kind of fallen through, and then landed on September 10th with Hakeem, and I was like, well, kind of came full circle, and I think it's a good fight for both of us. We both fought on the same day, and so we've had the same amount of time to kind of just relax and chill, and then get back into a fight camp, and hopefully I'm healthy on my end. I don't know why he's been taking so long to fight again. Maybe he's just taking a break, but hopefully everything's good on his end, and then we'll be able to get in there and mix it up and put on a show for the fans.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I imagine you would have wanted to fight sooner, but it was one of those things where they gave you the opponent and they're like, hey, this is the date. Like, because I imagine you wanted to fight, sooner than September 10th.
Well, originally I was looking to fight maybe like June. Like originally, like way back, right after the Peterson fight, I was thinking like June. And then they had offered me like April 30th. My manager had offered me April 30th, and it was like a 4.5 week notice against Andre Fili, and then also against Tucker Lutz. And it had nothing to do with the opponents. I just said, I had taken a couple of months off, and I said, hey, I want to fight in June, and that's the understanding that I was at with my manager. And he, even though I'll tell him certain things like that, he'll still hit me with opportunities, and then I'd pass on those just because of the date. I was a bit heavy as well, so we passed on those fights, and then I still told him, I was like, you know what, I'm still looking at like June, and then things kind of just didn't work out. People were getting booked up, and opponents that were at my level didn't necessarily have any openings. Everybody was already kind of booked up, and then they offered me the Nathaniel Wood fight in London, July 23rd. Ended up passing on that just because, man, like if I can fight anywhere in the States, I mean, obviously Vegas is ideal for me, but anywhere in the States is good. I just don't want to travel, 14 hours on a plane and fight in his home territory. And even though it's in the UFC, I still feel like there's a little bit of bias sometimes. Even like the Patty fight with with Jordan over in London, I think Jordan won the first round, but for some reason, like everybody started saying like on the Twitter, and even the commentary was like, oh yeah, Patty won that, could have won that round. I'm like, how? He had 30 seconds, that was good, but he lost 4.5 minutes of that first round. But so just, and then obviously the last time I fought over in London was against Patty, and so it was one of the worst weight cuts I had, and just you kind of got to overcome the bias, and you're in their backyard, and all that stuff. And so I ended up passing on that fight, and then they were just saying that like everybody was booked up, and September 10th, or Jason had hit me up with September 10th with Hakeem, and I said, you know what, that's perfect time for me. And and it was somebody already anticipated possibly fighting, so it worked out good for me, and I hopefully worked out good for him as well.
Well, no, I like the honesty there. Do you think if you were younger in your career, you might have jumped on those opportunities? But being a vet now and knowing how important wins and losses are, especially in your case, you got a nice win streak going right now. Was that something that, you feel like it's a maturity decision where you're like, hey, I don't need to take this. I want a better situation here.
Yeah, exactly. You don't necessarily want to be a yes man all the time. I was that for a while. My manager would call me. There's a call that him and my coach was on. We were on a three-way phone call, and Jason's all like, gave me a date, and he's like, "Are you down for that?" And I was like, "Yes." I said yes before you even announced the opponent. This was back when I fought Julian Erosa, and I was coming off of 2 losses and figured I was already going to be cut after the Grant Dawson fight. And then he called me. I knew anytime my manager calls me, I knew it was going to be an opportunity. So I basically even said yes before the date. I was just like, he said something about UFC, wanted me to fight, and I said yes, let's do it. He's like, do you care like when and who it is? I was like, nope, let's just do it. And but desperate times call for desperate measures, and so for me, I'm not exactly in that position anymore. And it's nice to have that. It's nice to understand that I don't have to be like say yes to anything and everything. I know Charles Rosa said yes to the Nathaniel Wood fight, but I'm not exactly sure where he's at. With UFC and if he felt like maybe he had to take it. But also he's a game opponent. Charles Rosa goes out there and wants to fight everybody and anybody, so that could have been part of his decision. And I'm like that as well. I'm willing to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. But it's just when you get to a certain spot, you're like, well, maybe I can pick and choose, certain opponents, times, dates, and venues as well. So for me, ideal Vegas, and this time won't be at the Apex. It'll be at the T-Mobile. And last time I was on a pay-per-view card. Diaz headlined against McGregor and shocked the world. So maybe he'll do it again, and maybe I'll be able to redeem myself. I lost that night, and so maybe I can redeem myself on this pay-per-view card.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Going down memory lane a little bit. Hakeem, we know what Hakeem's going to try and do. He's going to try and keep this standing and strike. That's typically his bread and butter. Are you looking at this any differently? I'm looking at this as like a fight of the night, all out brawl, like kind of most of your fights, right?
Yeah, Hakeem's it's pretty straightforward what he wants to do. But you never know. You can never put it past people. People think that I'm just gonna brawl every time. So maybe it would be a good time to maybe shoot a double leg and maybe bring the wrestling to him. But then again, when you get in there, it's a different animal, and things go out the window when you get hit a little bit. But I think my benefit or the benefit to my style versus his style is he's clean. I make things dirty, and it's tough to be clean when someone else is dirty. And I think it shows. Even with the Sean Woodson fight, Sean Woodson's a clean striker, and I made it a bit dirty on him and got him a little tired because of that. It's when you have these unusual angles, unusual strikes coming from left field, it's a bit different to adjust. He's a standard kickboxer, and he's really good at what he does. And so I really got to make it dirty and mix it up. And that could obviously incorporate some wrestling and some grappling. We are doing MMA, so but you never know. You never really know until you get in there. And he seems to be a little suspect with his wrestling defense in some aspects. Julio Arce took him down, and Julio Arce is not the biggest featherweight. Well, he's now a 35er, but so I think that those options are there. But you never really know until you get in there. Like I said, I could feel his wrestling, and he could feel like a ton of bricks, and he could feel like he's like the hardest guy to take down when I get in there. And so I won't necessarily understand his strength and his power and his speed until the night that it happens.
Training camp. Who've been some of the main training partners helping you get ready for this fight?
Nicholas Mota. He's fighting the weekend after me. He's a pretty standard kickboxer, and he's fighting a jiu-jitsu guy. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy he's fighting.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He has his black belt tattoo on his chest. He's fighting that kid, and that kid's like 6'2", and he's more of a grappler. And so they were looking for me to help him out, and it works vice versa for me. Nicholas Mota is a bit taller and a bit bigger than Hakeem's going to be, but I think that makes it better for me. I'd rather train with someone who's bigger and harder to take down. And then going to fight night feeling like I'm a bit bigger than my opponent, and so or to have the ability to handle someone that's a bit bigger. So it's working good for both of us for the sparring, and it's also good too because we have never sparred before, so it really kind of opens it up. And most of the time I spar with my buddy George Alcala, and he's a tiny bit shorter than Hakeem is, but he's built pretty similar in size and stature and strength. But he's more of a grappler wrestler, and we just know each other's like strong points, and we know what we can get away with each other, and so it becomes a different situation. I don't know if anybody's ever said that, but the more you train with somebody, the more you know what they're doing and how they're able to use certain things, and so we kind of really stalemate each other in a lot of aspects, and so it's nice to get in there and mix it up with somebody that I haven't sparred with before, who's going to look similar to Hakeem's style, and be able to see if I can, manipulate the sparring sessions in my favor as well.
How do you see this fight playing out on September 10th?
Well, I want to say, I'm going to be I'm gonna be clean, maybe take him down, sub him. But I feel like it's going to be one of those things where it kind of unfolds and unravels as the fight continues. I hope to make this fight last as long as possible because I think it favors me in the long run. But I'm actually hoping it's going to be like a Nate Landwehr and Oyama
Onama,
fight.
yeah, like last night, yeah.
Man, that shit was wild. And but I feel like that's like kind of my style, anyways. Me and Nate. I feel like I'm a bit more technical than Nate is, but we both, it's fun watching guys like that because that's how I feel when I'm in there. Like I don't care if it's sloppy. I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit, as people would say. But for me, it's like I think the dirtier and the longer the fight goes, the better it is for me. So, if I can't cleanly do what I want, then I might have to, dip dip into the bag of tools and make it a little dirtier than I would like. But I think I can get I think I might be able to get him out of there in the third round, probably similar to like the Jourdain fight and the Sean Woodson fight.
A win here over Hakeem Dawodu, does this get you a ranked opponent next, do you think? Or do you think you still need one more? Because you're getting pretty close, man, with this winning streak.
Yeah, man, I think man, I don't even care about that kind of stuff. I didn't even realize he was I think he's like, kind of hovering around the 15, 16, 17 area. But man, I just like to fight. I just enjoy it. But I think if I do get a win over him, it also depends too. I mean, if you go out there and you beat somebody by split decision, it's you got sometimes you got to go out there and make a statement. If I went out there and I starched him in a minute, then I could be like, well, maybe give me a top 10 guy. But if I go out there and it was just a really close fight back and forth, then maybe you don't have that opportunity to possibly call out someone like that. So, but I do think if I get a win over Hakeem and I do it in a decent fashion, especially if I get a finish over him, I could be looking at maybe a top 10 guy or close to that. So, but like I said, man, I just enjoy fighting, and I just want I'm always focused just on the task at hand. And Hakeem's is no pushover, and so I really got to focus on getting a win over him, by any means necessary. So, I always think about those things after the fact.
You got a couple more fights left on your contract? I was trying to remember.
Yes, I got 2 more fights on this contract.
Is that including this one, or is it after it's 2? Because that's a big fight then. Because obviously, if you go out there and win, you can usually renegotiate on the last one, right?
Yeah, and so and so like that was my big incentive to fight Jourdain on like 10 days notice, was because I was 2-1 on the contract they gave me off Sean Woodson's fight, and then they had offered me a new contract if I took the Jourdain fight and a little bit of a pay scale bump. So I was like, that was the biggest incentive. Like, I mean, I want to fight anyways, but the biggest incentive was that they were going to give me a new contract, and so it's always nice when they offer you that, and so that's the reason why I took that. And then since then, it's been Jourdain and Peterson on this contract, and so and those are great fights, So if I can get another win, man, it's just it would be absolutely amazing, and then I feel like I could definitely renegotiate for even more money and a better contract. So fingers crossed. But that's like I said, I don't want to think about those things.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one thing I'm thinking about, and that's Hakeem. And so I'm really focused on that and been getting ready for that as best I can.
Julian, thanks for doing this, man. Anyone you want to thank? Any sponsors or any social media you want to plug? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, just the usuals. If you want to reach out to me, Instagram is the best way to do it. Julian_Erosa. Same with Facebook. But just I want to thank all my friends and family, and my wife, and obviously, the number one person I got to thank is Jason House from Iridium Sports Agency. My management has been ideal, and the biggest thing for me to get back into the UFC. And so if it wasn't for them, I want to be here. I'd probably be fighting on some regional show for pennies on the dollar. So thanks to them, and obviously thanks to you, James, for having me on again. I appreciate it.